Good morning, Light Lions. I hope you guys had a wonderful week. I really do miss you guys, and I'm hoping everything is going well for you. So, we're going to go ahead and get started today. So, let's go ahead, close our eyes, bow our heads, and we're going to pray together, okay? So, dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for just this wonderful week and the wonderful weather you've given us. I ask that you continue to be with us and guide us and just strengthen us, Lord, especially during these tough times. Be with the children, help them to have fun, help them to grow closer with their families, and most importantly, Lord, help them to grow closer to you. Thank you for all that you've done. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about King David. All right, so King David, he wasn't the first king, but he is one of the most memorable kings, meaning the Israelites, they remember him the most. All right. And the reason being is he came out of nowhere and became king. All right. So let's start. So if you guys remember last week, we talked about this guy. What was his name? That's right. His name was Samson. Yes. So Samson, he was the last judge of Israel, right? So as the last judge, Samson was the last person to lead Israel before they decided to have a king. So the first king of the Israelites, his name was Saul, okay? And Samuel, a prophet of God, so somebody who was very close with God, he was the one who picked out Saul and anointed him, meaning he told everybody, God chooses this man as your king. All right. So this is King Saul. Now, King Saul, he was obviously a very proud person, and he wanted to lead Israel in the way that he believed was correct. But remember, when you lead people, you have to lead them with God's permission. Okay. So, as God was telling Saul to do things, Saul kind of was like, well, I rather, do things on my own. Very dangerous, right? So, Saul had a problem, all right? King Saul had this problem known as the Philistines, okay? The Philistine army was causing problems. They even stole the Ark of the Covenant, which is the thing that held the 10 Commandments, the stone tablets, and Moses' magical staff, right? And, Saul had to fight them to get them back and things like that. Now, the Philistine army, they were waging war against the Israelites. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but wars take time. They take years, even decades, right? And basically for tens of years, like decades, they were fighting back and forth, back and forth. Now, King Saul obviously needed a final solution. So it was then that God said to Samuel, hey, I need you to go find somebody, right? And that's him, David. Now, Samuel was like, okay, God, who do you want me to find? And he goes, I want you to go to this house. There is a husband and wife, and they have 8 children. I want you to go find the one that I pick, and you will know when you found the person that I'm looking for. So, here it is. This is David right over here, the little tiny one, right? And these are his 8 brothers. Now, his 7 brothers, right? They were very strong men. They were very well known in their village. And Saul actually saw every single one of them. But God kept saying, no, this isn't the one. No, this isn't the one. And his parents were like, well, are you sure you're here to pick one of our sons, right? And so Samuel, he looked at the parents and said, don't you have another son after the 7th one? And the parents looked at each other and they were like, well, we have a very young son. His name is David, and he is out right now tending to our sheep. And so Samuel told them, okay, go grab him. So David comes in, right? He's this young little teenage boy, not very big, because he's not that old yet. And, Samuel meets him. And right when Samuel touches David, God shined this light on David and said, yes, this is the one. This is my anointed. So Samuel, he took oil, right, and poured it over David's head because this was a symbol that God had chosen David. So after having anointed David, God began to speak to David very clearly. Now, remember I was talking about the Philistine army? Well, that army was still there, okay? This time they were bigger and stronger, right? But that wasn't the only thing. The Philistine army had a champion or a secret weapon, basically. And the secret weapon, right, was this guy named Goliath right here. All right. Now, if you look right here to the right, you'll see that it says 5 feet 8 inches. That's referring to this guy. Okay. If you want to know how tall 5 feet 8 inches is, that's me. I'm 5 feet 8 inches tall. Okay. Goliath was 9 foot 6 inches, meaning his head was touching the ceiling in our rooms. Can you believe that? Yeah, he's ginormous. So, he was considered the most powerful soldier in the Philistine army, this Goliath, because with one swing of his spear, he could kill 10 people. Yeah, that's how strong he was. So, God, he spoke to David, and he told David, go to the army, and I want you to tell them that you're going to kill Goliath. And, this is what the army guy said, right? They were laughing at him. They were like, you're going to kill Goliath, the most powerful soldier in the Philistine army. There's no way. And they just laughed him off, right? But what they didn't know was that God was with David. So after he got laughed at, David went down to the river because God told him, I want you to go down and pick a stone. I want you to touch it, feel it, and find a perfect stone that you feel is the most balanced for your slingshot, right? So that's what David did. He grabbed a stone. He looked through a bunch of them until he found the perfect one. And that's what he took with him. So he goes out to the battlefield. Now, when you're in a battlefield, you're supposed to wear armor and all this stuff, right? But David couldn't, he was so small, he couldn't even fit in adult-sized armor. That's why the army was laughing at him, because he was so tiny. So David just went out in his regular clothes, right? And this is basically what it looked like, right? See this? He's wearing a t-shirt and shorts, right? That's basically what David was wearing compared to our days today. And this is Goliath, right? And this is how it must have felt like. A little boy and this giant of a man, right? So David, even though he was afraid, he knew what he had to do. So he wound up his slingshot and he threw the rock, right? And the rock, it actually killed Goliath. Yeah, he nailed him so hard right at the head that it killed Goliath instantly. And David, because he knew he had killed Goliath, he took Goliath's sword and he chopped off his head just to make sure, right? And he took the head to the king to make sure the king knew that he had killed Goliath. And when the Philistine army saw that Goliath had died, they ran. They were so afraid. They couldn't believe what had happened. They thought Goliath would never die. But guess what? There was a champion of God. Goliath can't even fight that, right? So, with that being said, we should always remember that God has the power to make us more powerful than anything, right? He took this little tiny boy, right? Not even a full adult yet. And he made him so strong that he killed the most powerful soldier in the Philistine army, that made it so that the Israelites couldn't even, live in peace. That's how strong he was. So the lesson here is to make sure that when God tells you to move, you need to move and do as he says, so that you can do the things that, he needs done for other people, right? Because with David killing Goliath, now the Israelites could live in peace. Okay? All right, so that's it for today. All right. I'm going to go ahead, close this out in prayer, and then I'll let you guys have the rest of your day, and we'll continue next week. All right. So close our eyes, bow our heads, and I'll pray. Dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for teaching us about David. Thank you for just giving us the opportunity to remember what it is you do in our lives, Lord. So be with us, guide us, strengthen us, and just give us the heart to obey you throughout all walks of life, Lord. Thank you for all that you've done in the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.